In the year 2022, the year of too many tactical RPGs, as if there could be such a thing, let's deploy our minds back to a simpler time in preparation for the remake of Front Mission. The year is 2007, the same year that Miss South Carolina said.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
The month is October, the same October that Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiered on the E! Network. The fourth week of that October, the same week of October that 30 Days of Night led the box office. The day, October 23rd, a Tuesday, the same Tuesday. Actually, nothing really happened that day except the DS version of the original Front Mission released.
Now, what's wrong with a man wanting to live?
Front Mission DS. Published by Square Enix, developed by Tosei, directed by Yuichi Kuroda, who, according to his LinkedIn profile, also directed the PS1 Japan-only remake of Front Mission called Front Mission First, which we will get into soon. He also listed himself as director to Front Mission History, which appears to be a baller-ass collection of the PS1 games packaged with some Bonzer figs, only in Japan. First off, the gameplay. See my Front Mission Super Famicom review for an overview into the gameplay systems. They remain unchanged in this version. I wasn't aware going into it, but Front Mission DS is actually an enhanced port of Front Mission First from the PS1, which was never released in America, just as the Super Famicom original. So what's different here? Well, we got some weird lens flare, the fact that I finally learned how to use the truck guy, Pee-wee, even though the new version still never properly explains it. No, the big change is that on top of the original campaign, you get the USN campaign. Harder, faster, stronger, better than the normal story? Harder and faster for sure. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know the length of the two scenarios, turn it off. Why are you even watching this vid, bro? The USN campaign is around 10 hours, and the main game still around 25 hours. The new protagonist is Kevin Goody Two-Shoes Greenfield, and his campaign starts with extreme difficulty. And I'm not talking about his strained relationship with
How do you solve a problem like Maria?
Paredes. Positive changes to the AI opponents and the USN scenario scaling back of units creates wincingly good strategy situations. Again, this only lasts for as long as the temptation to grind in the arena is kept at bay. And though much more competent than in the Super Famicom version, the AI still has a tendency to sit and wait a lot, even if they're more adept at using chaffs. I was hoping the game would make me utilize items beyond the normal repairs, but alas, none of the other items proved necessary for success. Gear progression still feels like a straight line with little incentive to not put your units in the best/most expensive gear. The only wrinkle being maybe the leg parts that increase mobility by more than 2 times but can't scale sheer cliffs, so units can become stranded and almost unusable for certain battles. Oh yeah, and you can speed up animations by holding A. Pretty sweet time save. Oh yeah, the localization. Apparently it's Royd, not Lloyd. That sounds right. I do much prefer the Super Famicom Carrion Crows translation as opposed to Canyon Crows. In an interview translated by Shmuplations, thank you Shmuplations, the development team reveals that they wanted more skills. In the game, as your pilot becomes more seasoned, they can unlock different skills, like being able to target a specific mech part or attacking twice with their melee weapon. That would have been nice, and or to add unique pilot-specific skills to give each character more of a gameplay identity. Overall impression, not the best TRPG ever, but shows enough promise that I'm still interested in delving into the rest of the series. Even though I've already played Front Mission 3, fun fact, the last TRPG I played before starting this series, and my opinion on that game was similar. Not great, but they keep making these games, so I hope they come together in an interesting way at some point. Oh yeah, and you kind of get, spoiler, and you kind of get cucked by Driscoll in both scenarios. Kind of a Bahamut Lagoon parallel. You know, the love interest being taken advantage of by the enemy commander.